We now come to the next urgent question. Damien Hines.
To ask the Education Secretary if she will make a statement on changes proposed to reporting at Ofsted.
Minister.
As the Government set out in the written ministerial statement laid yesterday and outlined in our manifesto, single headline grades will no longer be issued by Ofsted when inspecting state-funded schools. Our landmark reform will drive high and rising standards for children and increase transparency for parents. Today, Ofsted has also published the outcome of its Big Listen consultation exercise, its largest engagement with parents, children and professionals in its history, and which, as the Right Honourable Member will be aware, began under the previous government. The Big Listen contains some difficult messages. It's clear that significant change is needed, and Ofsted has responded by committing to improvements. Holding schools accountable for children's education is vital. But single headline grades are low information for parents and create high stakes for schools. So this government is acting, making inspections both more powerful and more transparent. For this academic year, parents will continue to see 4 inspection grades for the existing subcategories. From September 2025, the introduction of school report cards will provide a more complete picture of a school's performance. We will develop these over the coming months, working closely with parents and schools. We want high and rising standards for every child, and we will act decisively where these standards are not being met. We will continue to intervene where performance is a serious concern. Ofsted's legal duty to identify schools causing concern will remain. They will be required to notify the Secretary of State of these inspection outcomes, and she will retain her legal duty to issue an academy order to local authority maintained schools where required. But we will change the way that schools are supported to succeed. From early 2025, we will introduce regional improvement teams. These will partner with struggling schools to quickly and directly drive improvement. This marks the beginning, not the end, of our journey towards an accountability system fit for purpose, and that will help break down the barriers to opportunity across this country for every child.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the system certainly can improve. After the terrible tragedy of Ruth Perry, changes were made, but Ofsted also, as she mentions, initiated its wider Big Listen, and we supported that. And I welcome very much in Ofsted's own announcement today. But I am concerned that the government hasn't thought through the consequences of its announcement yesterday. The overall effectiveness assessment is a vital indicator for parents, and it also plays a specific role in the statutory framework. Can she confirm that Ofsted will still have a legal duty to identify schools needing special measures or requiring specific improvement, that the department will still intervene, and that this will be on the same criteria as before, actually using that same word, inadequate, but now in any one of 4 categories? When, Mr. Speaker, will there be clarity for other sectors, for early years, for colleges, for prisons, for social care, and crucially, what are the implications for intervention if children's social care in an area is failing, with all the terrible consequences that can bring? There is already a wealth of report card information on schools, from pupil progress to attendance. What will actually be new in the report cards she talks about? Now, rather less discussed from yesterday's announcement is the introduction of the ominous-sounding regional improvement teams to monitor struggling schools rather than finding a good fit with an academy trust, apparently to be funded by, yes, you guessed it, VAT on independent schools. Now, for schools with successive requires improvement judgments, can she tell us what reason is there to believe that regional improvement teams will be more effective in delivering improvements than a strong academy trust? Mr. Speaker, between 2010 and 2024, the proportion of schools rated less than good came down from around 1 in 3 to 1 in 10. And I worry these changes mean less transparency for parents and a step backwards from a proven school improvement approach with academy trusts to a directive top-down approach. And I urge the Secretary of State and her Minister to assess the true impact this will have on young people's prospects before it's too late.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Shadow Secretary of State was a minister in the Department for Education, and he knows these issues well. He knows too that the work we are announcing today is about clearing up the mess the government left. The Big Listen was announced under his government, and his former colleague, the previous chair of the Education Select Committee, was himself persuaded of the case for reform of the single headline grades. Labour in government is a party of high and rising standards for all of our children in all of our schools. Reforming inspection to enable improvement in our schools is urgent. Inspection and accountability are crucial tools for achieving better outcomes for all of our children. We will take no lessons from a party under whose watch 1 in 4 children left primary school not having met the standards expected in maths and in reading, and where 1 in 5 children are persistently absent from school. It's not good enough, and we are determined to fix it. And this announcement that we have made is the first step on that road.
Alistair Strapper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I thank the Minister for taking swift action. As a former teacher and children's lead at a local authority, I know how high stakes and low information Ofsted judgments have started to become for local families. Indeed, speaking to parents in my constituency ahead of my SEND debate in Westminster Hall tomorrow, I know the lack of a focus on inclusive education was a real issue for lots of parents. So can the Minister confirm we'll be making the most of this opportunity when looking at a new scorecard to ensure that Ofsted are holding schools to account on the breadth of their inclusion in the local area?
Minister.
The Honourable Gentleman puts the issues very well, and the intention of the report card system, which we will consult on and we will take the time to make sure we get it right, but we want to ensure we have a clearer picture for parents by putting a clearer spotlight on a greater range of areas of performance rather than one word single overall judgment. For example, we want to give parents a better picture of the support a school is providing for children with special educational needs, and as part of this process we will explore how to demonstrate that within the report card system.
Lib Dem spokesperson Munira Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The death of Ruth Perry was an absolute tragedy and underscored the high-stakes nature of Ofsted inspections, and I personally have witnessed firsthand how head teachers and teachers in my constituency have suffered under the strain and stress of Ofsted inspections, but others have also told me how helpful they found them and how brilliant Ofsted inspectors have been. So Liberal Democrats certainly welcome the move away from one-word judgments, and it's something we've been long calling for. At the same time, we believe that a robust and fair inspection and accountability regime is essential to ensure that schools are operating at a high standard and are safe, nurturing, inclusive environments for our children and young people to thrive. So, whilst this is a welcome first step, could we have some reassurances that this will be followed by proper root and branch reform? For too long, Ofsted has been seen as an adversary rather than, and it should be seen as a helpful friend. So, could we see this as a first step towards a world where Ofsted is a helpful, respected partner for schools, and perhaps some regional improvement teams will provide that? I sense that that's something that local authorities used to do and had that function taken away from them. Yeah. And also, finally, Ofsted should be looking at a broad, varied, rich curriculum, and how will her curriculum review connect with these Ofsted changes?
Minister.
I thank the Honourable Lady and her welcome of these changes today, which are welcomed by many in the sector and out in the country as well, that rely on a strong inspection system that is fair, clear and transparent. I absolutely echo her comments about Ruth Perry and her death. It was an absolute tragedy, and I want to take this opportunity to pay tribute to her sister Julia, who has fought so hard over this past year to ensure that lessons are learned. And we know that Ofsted has reported on its Big Listen today. There will be copies available in the House of Commons library. It's a very large report. It's a huge exercise that they have undertaken, but it shows that they are listening, and it will take time to see those changes implemented, but they are determined to change, and we are determined to work as she says, in partnership with them to deliver the changes required. And that applies across the board in our education sector, where we want to work in partnership with schools, with those who are delivering the excellent education that we want to see for every child. The Honourable Lady mentioned the curriculum review. I may get in trouble for the length that her question may require in my response, but obviously this is a key part of reforming our education system and making sure it gives that breadth and depth of experience for young people and their teachers and their schools.
Serena Brackovich.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and to my right honourable friend on your statement to the House on the long-awaited Ofsted reforms. Given the welcome focus on inclusion, SEND and improved training for inspectors, can the Minister update the House of how this will support children with SEND in Wolverhampton North East and beyond?
I thank the Honourable Lady and absolutely concur with her that this really is about ensuring we have an inspection system that drives high and rising standards for every child, and that includes supporting our aim to see an inclusive school system that gives those outcomes that we want to see to children with special educational needs as well. And this really is about providing that greater transparency on our school system and an inspection regime that focuses on a whole variety of areas that schools should be striving towards for improvement. We know that schools work incredibly hard and are doing an incredible job for our children, but every school can always do better, and an inspection system that supports and drives that improvement will be absolutely welcome across the board.
Sir Gavin Williamson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Across Stone, Great Worley and Pancridge, we've got some amazing, outstanding and good schools across the seat. But actually, across the country, you do see schools failing and in need of intervention. Could the Minister set out what she envisages the trigger mechanism being for intervention?
The Right Honourable Gentleman raises an important point, and we will work with Ofsted on developing the new report card system over the next year. We will engage and we will consult as part of that process. We want to get this right. He is absolutely right that where there are serious failings in schools, that we will continue to intervene in the best interests of children, and we will continue to intervene where schools have, where the government currently has a legal duty to do so. We will continue to intervene, but we will also look to put that improvement support through our regional improvement teams in place for schools that are struggling as well, because no child should be left in a school that is letting them down.
Jonathan Brash.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Chair. Schools across the country, including my constituency of Hartlepool, will welcome today's judgment. And as they start the new term, would my right honourable friend join with me in thanking them for their extraordinary hard work, including for my children who started their school term just today, and recognise that this decision demonstrates that in this government they have a partner who will work with them to improve every child's future?
Minister.
I thank the Honourable Gentleman, and I absolutely agree, and I wish his child all the best as he starts school today. And I know there are many children right across the country who are having their first day back at school today, and if it's your very first day at school, I remember that day very well indeed, and I remember it being quite terrifying, not dissimilar from your first outing at the dispatch box. But I absolutely concur with his sentiment as well, that as this government, our priority is to drive high and rising standards, not in some of our schools and for some of our children, but for every child in every single one of our schools. And we will work tirelessly to deliver that. And these reforms that we are announcing are a crucial part of ensuring that is delivered.
Leila Moran.
Madam Deputy Speaker, in my career as a teacher, I had the dubious pleasure of being inspected by 4 different regimes. When we had Ofsted, I'm afraid to say it was the most brutal, the least personal, but also the least useful of all the regimes. At its best, an inspection regime can help drive up improvement, celebrate what's great about a school, and they hold up a mirror asking yourself, what more can I do for these children who I care about so much? So what lessons is the department learning from other inspection regimes around the world?
Minister.
The Honourable Lady raises an important point, and her experience is obviously very valuable in this House and from the lessons that we can learn going forward. And she is absolutely right in that a good inspection regime drives improvement and identifies those areas in all schools where they might be doing well, and they should celebrate that, absolutely, but also where there is room to improve. And of course, we will be consulting on the report card system extensively over the next year. We want to make sure we get this right. We want to do it in partnership, and obviously we will look to see how this is done to make sure that we learn from best practice, and we will continue to ensure that this is an inspection system that should be welcomed by schools to, as she quite rightly puts, helps them to identify how they deliver for their children, because I know that every school, that is their priority too.
Darren Paffy.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I thank the Minister for her statement and these excellent reforms and practical reforms that are being set out. Will she join with me in thanking in advance all the hard-working teachers and support staff across Southampton Itchen, and offer them assurance that this government intends to work in real partnership to ensure that every child gets the best start in life?
I thank the Honourable Gentleman and very much welcome the opportunity to thank all our teachers as they go back to school again this week, and we'll be putting in a really hard and rewarding year ahead, giving the best to the children that they are in their care. And I absolutely echo what he says. We were very clear from day one of taking up our place in government that we want to work in partnership with the sector. We know that government does not deliver education for these children. Our teachers do, our schools do, our support staff do, the parents who make sure the children get to school do, and we support them all in that endeavour. But where we can do more to deliver and support them in delivering that, we will, and the announcements that we're making are part of that endeavour.
Sir Julian Lewis.
When my sister Lee took what were then called her GCE exams in the early 1960s, she was given the specific mark for each exam result. By the time I took mine in the late 1960s, that system had been replaced by one of grades which merged together all sorts of different results and were likely to lead to subjectivity and relativism henceforth. Could not the simplistic one-word system that is now being replaced be replaced by a proper marking system where individual aspects of a school are specifically marked and an overall figure given, which would therefore be not subjective but would give parents an easy guide as to the performance of the school?
Minister.
The Right Honourable Gentleman makes a characteristically very thoughtful point, and I think as part of our consultation we will obviously look at how best to deliver our aim, which is to provide greater transparency, greater clarity, greater information for parents and for schools and the staff who are working to drive improvement. As he says, no child would be given a single grade for their overall school performance. So why we've been doing that to schools, I think, does beg a very important question.
Oliver Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. When the previous Conservative government left office, education standards were declining, schools were crumbling, and they claimed to have maxed out on their support for children. Does the Minister agree with me that schools, parents, pupils deserve better, and with this government they'll get it?
I think the Honourable Gentleman put it incredibly well, and from the opposition front bench they seem to protest an appreciation of the reality that schools have been facing up and down the country and that have been letting children down. And I think that is our key focus today. Yes, it's about schools, it's about an inspection framework, it's about the organisation Ofsted that delivers that, but actually this is about children. It's about ensuring the best outcomes for every child, and if we get this system right and we put education back at the heart of national life again, we will deliver on our pledge to break down the barriers to opportunity for every child, wherever they are in this country.
Joshua Reynolds.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I welcome the announcement by the Government, as do many schools in my constituency of Maidenhead and parents who want more information rather than just the one-word ratings. Can I urge the Minister, though, to give parents more power with greater detail whilst ensuring that ratings are easy for parents to understand?
Minister.
The Honourable Gentleman has set out very much our aim and intention, and that is why we will consult extensively on this. We have given ourselves till September 25 to have these report cards in place, and we want to ensure we have input from education experts, that we have input from parents, that we have input from children, that we maximise this opportunity to, as he put it, maximise the information for parents that they will find useful, and maximise the information for schools that they will find useful to drive the improvement that they want for their children too.
Luke Charters.
Madam Deputy Speaker, York Out is home to many inspirational teachers, and I'm proud that my wife is one of them. But heads tell me that there's a recruitment and a retention crisis. So does the Minister agree with me that the end of Ofsted headline judgments will improve teacher retention? And can the Minister update the House on the plans to recruit 6,500 specialist teachers? Thank you.
Minister.
I thank the Honourable Gentleman for his intervention, and I wish his wife, as well as all teachers starting their school term this year. It's an incredibly exciting time, a little bit daunting, I think, for some, but it's a really important opportunity to reset their school life at the beginning of a new year. And similarly for us, this is an opportunity to reset our relationship with the sector, and in doing so, ensure that we can recruit the teachers and make teaching the attractive and respected and admired profession that it should be, to make sure that we can meet that pledge to recruit 6,500 new teachers. We've already started the work. We've reset the relationship. We've reset the tone. We have obviously made progress on the pay review, and we will continue to strive to reach our target to make sure that every school has the teachers that it needs and every child has the teachers that they need to teach in the subjects that they need specialist teaching in especially.
Jim Shannon.
Madam Deputy Speaker, can I thank the Minister for her response to all the questions, and wish her well in the role that she now plays to make education better for our children. That's what we all wish to see. The Minister will understand the needs for parents to easily and simply determine which school best fits the need of their child and family, and that any review of a school must be accessible to those with an educational background and those who are perhaps not familiar with educational terminology. This needs to be clear in the reporting, but would the Minister also acknowledge that rather than teaching staff focus being on an area that appears to be getting a lower grade than the rest and directing resources to improving one area, that instead the resources and the attention must be on children and their educational needs, which are more varied and indeed more complex than they ever were before? Thank you.
Minister.
The Honourable Gentleman makes, again, characteristically, a very thoughtful point, and I don't disagree with anything that he said. And in fact, the report card system should give that much more holistic picture of a school life. A parent knows their child, and they know the sort of school environment that will suit them, and a report card system will enable the highlighting of areas where a school may be doing particularly well in some areas, where they may need to strive to improve in others. And that will be useful for parents. It'll also be useful for schools to know where they can improve, and it will be useful to drive high and rising standards for every child. We're absolutely determined to deliver that, and we see this as a key part of ensuring that happens.
Peter Swallow.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. If I were to pick a single word to describe Ofsted's grading system, it would be inadequate. So I welcome the Government's commitment to reviewing Ofsted's review system, and particularly reviewing its focus on special educational needs. Will the Minister engage with families with special educational needs when developing the new school report card system?
Minister.
Ensuring that we meet the needs of children with special educational needs and their families is a key priority for this government. We recognise that the system is broken, that there are too many families and too many children not getting the education that they deserve. And we see this as a part of that process of resetting that relationship, resetting that system, so that we can have a school system that is inclusive where that is appropriate, that we have mainstream schools that are serving the whole community. And we will very much endeavour, as part of wider reforms that we are looking at, to ensure that we have a special educational needs system that does meet the needs of every child in this country.
Nesl Caliscan.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for your statement and clarity on the next steps for driving improvement in our schools across the country. Many teachers, parents will welcome the news that we will move away from one-word inspection, but intervention is not the same as driving improvement. So I'd like to ask the Minister for reassurance that alongside intervention there will be a plan and support for schools so that we can see the improvements necessary to give every child the best start in life.
Minister.
We will continue to intervene in the worst performing schools. When a school would previously have been rated inadequate, the government will still take action. As it does currently, we will issue academy orders if that is required in line with legal requirements. Inspection reports will continue to make this clear to parents if a school is in this situation, and Ofsted will continue to make clear when a school is causing concern and if that intervention is required by law. But we will also ensure that where schools need support, that they get that support, and we will be rolling out regional intervention teams, regional support regional improvement teams to ensure that where schools are struggling, they get that support that they need, and that they get it through a system that partners them with high-performing schools in the area and ensure that schools work together for the benefit of their whole community. We see that as a key part of driving the reforms that we want to see for every child.
Mike Amesbury.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I welcome the Minister's changes to Ofsted inspections. They genuinely are common sense, this holistic approach. Would similar measures apply to children's services in the future?
So we recognise that this is a first step on the journey to removing single headline grades that we see as reductive, and we have widespread agreement on that across all educational remits. At this stage, we are implementing this in schools as a matter of priority, but we will work with Ofsted and sectors over the next year to develop reporting arrangements across a whole range of areas for which Ofsted currently has responsibility.
Sean Davis.
Deputy Speaker, can I congratulate the Minister for the rapid work in this regard. It's taken the party opposite 14 years, and the members on the front bench have done this in a matter of weeks. But can I have a commitment from the Minister that Ofsted's focus on attendance, SEND and attendance will be laser focused? And it is for the benefit of the House, Madam Deputy Speaker, that there's almost two more members of the Conservative benches here listening to this debate on education standards than are standing for the Conservative Party leadership.
Minister.
I thank the honourable gentleman, and he is right. We have delivered this at haste. We have hit the ground running when it comes to improving our education system, because every day at school matters, every day in government matters for driving those high and rising standards for every child. He rightly identifies attendance as a key issue and concern. We share that concern. The previous government talked a lot about that concern but did very little to turn the table on it. We want to see attendance being prioritised. We know far too many children are missing far too much school, and that is not only harming their educational opportunities, but it is harming their life chances, it's harming their whole school community. So we want to send that message out loud and clear in this first week back at school, that every day at school matters and every child should be attending school.
Lawrence Turner.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The decision to end single-word judgments will be welcomed by education professionals across Birmingham, and I've seen in my own household the mental and physical toll that the old system could impose. Can the Minister confirm that the new school report cards will allow Ofsted to assess SEND inclusion alongside SEND attainment?
Minister.
Yes, as part of this new report card system, we know that the current system isn't working for anyone, which is why the changes that we have outlined are so important. We know that we need to spread best practice across all of our schools, and so we will consult on the best way to do that by driving standards across the board, and that includes for children with special educational needs, which is a key priority for this government.
Chris Bloor.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and thank you, Minister, for her statement. Anyone that's been in a school in their constituency before or after an Ofsted inspection can't help but know the impact that it has had on staff before and after. And what I welcome about the Minister's statement is that this is an opportunity for us to reset relationships between ourselves and educators and families, because it is so important right now that those young people who look to become a teacher see it as a worthwhile profession where they will be welcomed and appreciated by government. So I really hope that this is an opportunity for the Minister to work with our education sector and families to build a report system that is fit for purpose, but also encourages people to join the education system.
I would say hear to that, because we know that the system as it is has been letting down children, letting down families, and we have a shortage of people that want to be teachers, and we need to make sure we have the teaching workforce that can deliver the education that every child deserves. So he put it incredibly eloquently, and I very much agree that this is very much about resetting our system, resetting our relationship, the relationship the government has with families so that they send their children to school and they believe school is the best place for their child, and for teachers who know that they are trusted and valued and supported to deliver what I know they went into teaching to do, and that we encourage more teachers to come and do it.